Greetings there, prop fans. It's Tony here from Caveman Props, and I'm back today with another tutorial. And I'm back with the blasters. I love blasters. I'm always building blasters. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to make the Cad Bane Blaster. Sorry, bit of a mouthful. But this is the new one that's seen in the Book of Boba Fett. So from the animated series to the live-action Book of Boba Fett, there's a slight variation on the gun that he uses. Obviously, because the actor had gloves on, and to handle the original gun would probably have been a bit difficult, so they've redesigned the gun that he uses, or it's a completely different one. But I've been looking at screenshots, what other people have been working. Some people are working on 3D prints of them, which you can get out there, are brilliant. I'm going to show you how I love to do it in my lovely material of foam. So we're going to foam smith a blaster in the Cad Bane style. I've done up a little template for it, so hopefully this template I will put on my Etsy page, and if you want to follow this along, you can get the template and build your own. So that's what I'm going to do now. So we're going to crack on. We're going to build another blaster. Okay, so our first template bit we're going to start is this. This is what I've drawn out for the main body of the gun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out of a 5mm sheet of foam, which is going to be our central piece, and then two 10mm pieces to obviously bulk that up. And then what I've done is I've cut it apart, and the 10mm parts I'm going to cut exactly like this. So I've already done that. So I've got my 5mm part and then my two 10mm parts, which are going to fit together like that. And then obviously the handle parts are going to go in here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to shape these and paint them separately. So this is going to be the main body of the gun, and then these will go in afterwards. So what I've also done is just to bulk this part out, is I've cut them out again in a piece of 5mm foam. So that's all going to go together like that. So once this bit's shaped and put in, so it's going to sit proud out of it just a little bit, and hopefully give me more of that sort of gun shape that we're looking for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all these bits together first to create the main body of the gun, and then obviously we can shape these, and then we'll move on to the next part. Okay, so there we are. So I've got those bits glued together. That's made that a little bit more stronger as the gun's going to go there. So the next part we're going to move on, very small template piece, is this. It just looks like a rectangle, and pretty much it is, but what we're going to do is the way in which we cut it. So what I've done is I've got, this is actually a piece of the scrap foam from there, so I'm not wasting anything. And what we're going to do is the way we're going to cut this. So on the two long sides, we'll take our ruler, take our scalpel, and instead of cutting straight, we're going to just bend the knife at a little bit of a 45-degree angle. So we're going to cut that in there, and what we're going to do is not go all the way to the end of the piece of foam, but so enough that we've cut the line. So we're going to do both of them that way, and then we're going to pick one of the smaller sides. We're going to cut that exactly the same way again. So the ruler, knife in at the angle, in like that, and then the other small end we are just going to cut normally and straight. So we want that one as straight as possible. And what we should end up with, if we've done it right, cut all the way through at the angles, so sometimes we just need to go back and double check. There we go. So as we end up with this, so we've got an angled bit on these four sides and a flat there, and what's going to happen is that's going to be glued onto there. We're going to line that up to the back, and that's going to create our almost like chamber part there. So we're going to do two of these. One's going to go either side, and that's going to bulk this bit out and create the chamber part. Alright, so there we are. That's got that on. So that's kind of there looking more like the chamber piece that it needs to. And just to finish off this back bit, what I've got here, this was a foam sphere, and I picked up, and basically what I've done is I've just cut it in half, so I've now got a semi-sphere, and that can go in there. This bit's a little bit flexible, so you can pull this out, get that in there, and then bring that back up to glue it in there. So basically that's what I'm going to do, is glue that bit in the back there, and then we're going to add the last few sort of details to here, and then hopefully we can make a start on the barrel. Okay, so for the detail for the end, I'm going to be using this. This is a little bit of the 10mm dowel, and what I've done is I've cut 15 or 15mm or 1.5 centimeters off of that. This is a piece of the 20mm dowel, and I've cut a 4mm strip off of that, so that's going to go on the end like that. And then also what I've got is I've got a bit of this 2mm strip, and it was left over from another project, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a run of that around there. That goes on, so then that will go on the back end of the little semi-sphere that we've just put on. So put these together and then I'll show you that going on. So there we are, that's that all put together. It's got the little bit of the seam there. What I'll purposely do is put the seam facing downwards, that will be under there. So that's basically just going to go on to the back end like that, and then we'll glue that back on there like that. Okay, for the next bit what we're going to do is I've got this piece of 5mm foam, I've cut it as a strip, and I've cut it the same thickness as this bit, and what we're going to do is literally we're just going to glue this in position all the way around until it comes to there, and then I'm going to trim it off. So that's just going to be a little guard bit that goes all the way over that, but what we're going to do is make sure it all sticks down to nice ends and bends in the correct places. So I'm going to get that bit on, and then there's just a couple more bits of detail just to add to this, and then that should be done. Right, so I've got that on, that's gone on quite nicely, and that kind of finishes that bit off for the chamber that we were going for there. I've also kind of raced ahead, I've cut the trigger bit out of a piece of 10mm foam and put that on, and then I've added these details just by using the smaller thin little sanding drum on my rotary tool and just burning that into there, so that kind of gives the idea of the little bolt bits, but obviously one of them's right above the trigger, so that's kind of to work obviously that. So that's all on there, so that's pretty much what we've got for this bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work on the front end, and then basically the hand grips, and we can start putting everything together. Right then, so now what we're going to do is we're going to come to the barrel of this. Now the barrel on this gun should be a octagon, obviously, tube. It runs down there. It's kind of in keeping with the fact that it's supposed to be like a Wild West revolver. So I looked everywhere trying to find something that would be suitable for the barrel, even if I can find like a plastic octagon tube. I looked everywhere, I couldn't find it. The only octagon tube I could find was like cast metal, which obviously would be too heavy for this. So then obviously I attempted then to make one out of a sheet of foam, cutting the grids out of it. I tried about 5 times and failed and got really angry with it. I then tried using the scroll saw to cut out a piece and cut the angles on it, and it kept slipping and I got angry with it, so I walked away from everything and left it. I've come back to it, had a thought, tried another couple of things that I know aren't going to work, so what I've decided to do is I'm just going to go with a round barrel. I know this isn't correct for this weapon, but for the moment it is the best I can do. If anyone can find out there a octagon shaped tube that's going to be perfect for this, please let me know and I can get it redone. But for now I'm just going to stick with a standard round barrel for this blaster. So that's what I'm going to use. I've got here a 10mm piece of foam dowel, so I'm going to keep it in with the foam, and then what I'm going to do is I've cut this piece. This was a piece of 10mm foam that I've just cut a 5mm strip. You can take a piece of 5mm foam and cut 10mm strip at it if you want, but I wanted this because it's going to be a bit more sturdy. I've cut a little angle bit on the end there, and what I'm going to do is lay this flat, and then I'm going to glue it from there to the end, and then obviously trim it off. And what that's going to do, it's going to add that bit at the bottom there, but it's going to help keep this barrel more straight and not bendy. So we're going to get that on, and then what I'm going to do is I've used a foam, you call this is a spike pyramid. I've forgotten, the name has completely escaped me at the moment, you understand, but what I've done is I've cut the end off. So it's like that. It's a cone. It's a cone. That's what it is. And basically what I'm going to do is stick that to the end of the barrel there. And then what I've also done is I've cut this piece of foam, a piece of 5mm foam. I've cut it to the right length that I need, and what I've done is I've cut an angle that way and that way. And what I'm going to do is this is going to be circled round, and those two cuts will join like that and help me create a better sphere. And then that's going to go around the end of this cone, so that's going to create our barrel like that. I've done things like this on previous blasters, if you've watched the channel. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to get this all together, make this barrel, and then we can start attaching it to the gun. So there we go, so that's the barrel done, looking like that, so that's going to be quite good. And then what we're going to do is we're going to attach this on just 5mm from the very top part here. So we're going to leave a 5mm gap and then line that up there. So that's going to go on there like that. And then what we're going to do is, I've already pre-cut these pieces. This is the next part of the template. I cut these from the same time as I cut this extra bit here. Basically using up all the leftover foam so not to have so much wastage. So once that's on there, they're going to go on next to that like that. So we're going to get these on, okay, and then we're going to look at the next part of detail that wraps around here and the last few bits of detail to go on it. For the next piece, once we've got all of that on, as I've cut this, so this is a strip, it's just 5cm wide, but the length is just enough that if we line it up there, it will wrap all the way around and meet the other end. So it's best to do this once you put it all together so you can get it accurate there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this part of the template and we're going to put it on the end here. We're going to mark this bit off, and then what we're going to do is we're going to flip it and do exactly the same again there. And then what we're going to do is that's going to be the perfect bit for going around there. So we're going to mark this, cut it, and then get it on. Right, so I just wanted to show you this bit. Now that I've got this bit cut, this is what you should end up with. And obviously what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it in up against there like that, so it's straight, and then it's going to curve its way around the barrel to there. So that's what we're going to get in. And get that in, and then we've got another couple of little bits of detail just to add to this. Right, so for the last little bit of details we're going to do in here, I've got a little bit of scrap 5mm foam, and using two different size tubes I've cut these little circle bits out. This one is about 1.5cm or 15mm, and these ones are about 8mm. Okay, it doesn't matter exactly the size. What I've done is I've cut this one in half, so I've got two semicircles. And what we're going to do is I'm going to stick one of these on here like this, and then the semicircle is going to go just below it like that, and that's going to create this little mechanism that we see on the gun here. So we're going to do that, and we're going to do it on both sides just to even that all up. And then what I'm going to do is get the rotary tool, and the same as what I did here with these bolts, I'm going to do one here and one here, and I'm going to show you the last little bit of detail added to that, and then we're going to work on the scope that goes on the top. Okay, so we've got all that done. Now what I'm going to do is to make these look a little bit more like the screws they're meant to be. You can, if you want, just leave them like this. They look quite good as they are. But I'm going to use my soldering iron with the very fine tip. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do a line across the middle of these. That, very gently, just to make it into the screw. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry on doing this. I need to put my respirator on. I'm going to get this all done on the gun, and then we can move on to the scope. Right, okay, so for starting on the scope, we're going to start on the mount first. To do that, we're going to use this part of the template. We're going to put this onto some 10mm foam, and you're going to want two of them. And then once you've drawn them on, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of pipe and we're going to put a hole straight through the middle. This hole has to be big enough to take the dowel that we're going to use for the scope. So we're doing this almost exactly the same way as the barrel. This is the same dowel that I've used for the barrel. So this is what's going to be in there, and that's going to be our mount to mount it onto the gun. So we're going to cut these out. I've also left this bit. This bit is a bit too long because when you come to it you're going to have to cut them at different lengths. So I've left them long, and then basically what we can do is we can cut it down and get it once we go to put it on the actual gun. So right, so I'm going to cut these out now. I'm going to put the hole in there, then I can cut these out nice and straight, and then we can make the rest of the barrel and start putting all of that together. Okay, so I've made this, I've done this part for the scope almost exactly the same as we did for the barrel. So it's just the cone on the end here with a strip going over here, and then I've cut a piece of this dowel. This is the 15mm 1.5 centimeter dowel. I think I said 10mm earlier, but obviously I might be wrong on that. So it's exactly the same as what I've used for the barrel, and then these bits are going to go over that to support it. Looking at it, I have made these bits quite too long because I'm going to have to cut this one probably down to about there, but I want to be able to, you know, cut it down and make a decision and not have to go too far. So that's what we're going to do on that. But first what we're going to do is I'm going to have a bit on here. So I'm going to get another bit of 5mm foam, and that's going to create a wrap around here. I'm going to make the seam on the bottom here to line up with that. But in order to do that, once I've done that, I won't be able to get these on. So I'm just putting this one on. I'm going to leave it loose. I'm going to get that bit of foam on there. Add the last, there's a little bit of detail to go on the top of it, and then I can get these into the right positions that I want, and then these can be glued in, and then it can be ready to go on the main part of the blaster. So there we go. So that's that. That is just a 3cm or 30mm strip of 5mm foam. Just wrapped it around. Seam runs along the bottom, same as the seam there. So once I put that on, that should all be hidden. I still haven't glued these on yet, but I'm about to. So I'm going to arrange that. Basically put this almost central to this part of the barrel, not including the foam bit. So sorry, the fat bit that fans out. Okay, but for the last bit of detail we're going to add on the top is I've taken some of the dowel here again and cut some 5mm strips off. So this is the same one that is the barrel anyway, and I've got the 20mm one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these together like that, and then these are going to glue on the very top here. This is going to create the bit on the top for working the scope. So I'm going to stick them on, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same as what I did on the gun. I'm going to use the Dremel tool and the soldering iron just to create the little screw bit that goes on the top there. So I'm going to get all this together, glue these bits in place, and then we can attach it to the main body of the blaster. So there we are, I've put the scope on, and this is the blaster all pretty much done, obviously apart from the handles, but I'm going to deal with them separate. So basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just run the heat gun over this, seal the foam, paint it with a black flexible paint specifically for foam, and then I've got a really nice gunmetal graphite, so I'm going to spray that all over it, and then we can start adding some final details with the paintwork and then get the handles on. You may have noticed I've put a little hole in the handle here. This is simply so I can hang it up while it's drying and I'm painting it, so I've got somewhere I can pretty much hold it. So that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to crack on, and we're pretty much on the home stretch now. So we're moving on to the handle grips now, and what I've done is I've obviously just got my Dremel out and I've just smoothed down these edges just to try and create it. I've not gone too far in there because that will sit in that bit, so you just want a little bit around there and then smooth these edges off. Now obviously this isn't too bad, but it's still a little bit rough. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our heat gun. You can see it there. It obviously starts to smooth down straight away as soon as the heat hits it. Be careful because it gets quite hot. Okay, But then while it's still warm, we're going to use our fingers and hands, and we're going to roll it in like that, and it just smooths that off a little bit. It makes it not quite so rough. You see? So what we'll do is we'll give this a couple of goes. So I'll smooth this down, heat it again, smooth it down a little bit more, and hopefully then we'll going to get something that resembles a half decent, grip that once we can smooth up and paint off, that will fit on the gun quite nicely. Alright, moving on with the handles. Obviously I painted these with the black flexible paint for the foam. I'll put a little bit of masking tape in the back. That's just so I can hold it like this. And what we're going to do now is I'm just going to paint these with the burnt umber acrylic. This is what I use for the weathering, but I think this is going to add a nice little, almost like a wood effect or look to the handle. So it's just a simple, just going to brush it on, and see, once it's black, once it paints on there, this paint goes onto it very nicely because the foam is all sealed. So there we go. So what we're going to do this with the handles, and yeah, everything can go together. Right, so there we are. So this has now been coated, and what I've done is I've sprayed it down with a plastic base spray paint in a graphite. I think it comes out almost like a very nice gunmetal grey. Now what I'm going to do now is still not quite right in the way of the colour that I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a black acrylic wash over it, like a weathering effect. Just to darken this graphite down just a little bit, and obviously add some more darker details in there with some weathering. I might throw a little bit of brown in some of the sort of edges and bits. Not quite sure how I feel about that just yet. I might do that once I've done the black. I'll have a look at it. So once that's done, we'll then bring it back and I'll add some dry brushing with some silver over the edges just to finish it off, and then obviously we'll add the hand grips and it will all be done. Right, so we're adding the black acrylic wash on. I'm just roughly putting it in, getting it into some of the corners and grooves like this. So I'm not quite sure how well you're going to see this. And then we just use the cloth, get some of this off, rub it off. It does make it a little bit darker, and it stays in some of those little grooves, adding the weathering, and I think that is kind of the more effect that I'm going for on this. So I think I'm quite pleased with that. So as you can see the difference between obviously this bit, I'm not quite sure how well that's going to work on camera, but so I'm going to brush this whole thing down, get it all sorted, and then we'll add the final weathering stage. Right, what we're going to do now is we're going to just add some of the dry brushing. So I've got a nice clean brush here, trying to poof it out just a little bit, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use some silver paint I've got here. Then what we do is we brush a lot of it off, and then we just use the edge just to edge some of the bits on, and what we'll do is we'll paint the screw bits, but we're just going to go around where it would have just rubbed a little bit. That's what we're going to do. It's just going to be edged off on that. So what we're going to do is go around this, get that off, just add a little bit of highlighting on that, and just add the handles on, and we're good to go. Right, so there we are. I've put it all together, I've got it all finished. There we go. What do you guys think? I really love the weathering effect. The silver, very delicate around the edges. It's just kind of added that to it. There's kind of two ways in which you're doing it. If you're doing the weathering for yourself and whatever, you go very lightly. If you're doing it for a TV or film prop, you want to go a little bit heavier because you lose a little bit from the camera. But I think this has come out brilliantly. It's added some brilliant definition just to the edges, almost a little bit as if it's been worn. But there we go. So I'm really kind of pleased with how this has come out. Now I know some of you are going to turn around and go, Tony, Cad Bane carries two of them. Well, I did build two of them. So there we are. So that's all you have to do is just follow the tutorial. But there we go. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think of this tutorial. What is your favourite Star Wars blaster? Obviously there's always a lot of love for the DL44, and obviously I did Ray's blaster a little while ago. That was another completely foam build as well. But yeah, let us know what you think in the comments. Tell us which is your favourite Star Wars blaster. If you'd like to see me make one, obviously leave a comment as well and I'll see what I can do. But there we go, guys. That's all complete on the Cad Bane Blasters. Please like, please subscribe, and hopefully I will check you all in the next. I will see you all in the next tutorial very soon.